Greetings, family, and welcome to KSOL, Black Talk Radio, the new black media. Today is Wednesday, January 9th, 2019. Family, this video is about this group pictured here, this evangelical group who wants gays removed from the Anti-Lynching Bill. Liberty Council Chairman Matt Staver opposes including the words sexual orientation and gender identity in a federal anti-lynching bill. Well, if you're like me and you're just hearing these words, you should be just as shocked as I am, because I had no idea that gays and lesbians and transgender, basically the LGBTQ community, has even been included in the anti-lynching bill, considering the fact that historically African Americans have been the mainly ones who have been lynched in this country, and it's been behind race. So family, the United States Senate last month unanimously passed a bill that would explicitly make lynching a federal crime, and it's about damn time. It took them all this time for them to do the right thing and finally come up with an anti-lynching bill after all this time. Not everyone, however, is pleased with passage of the Justice for Victims of Lynching Act. Liberty Council, an evangelical nonprofit that opposes gay rights, and its chairman, Matt Staver, are taking issue with the bill's inclusion of LGBTQ people. So before I continue, let me just show you who these people are. So the founder and chairman of the Liberty Council, Matt Staver, he is the person on the right. And he's speaking during a live nativity scene outside of the Supreme Court in Washington, D.C. on December 12th in 2018. So just let it be known that the guy on the right holding the his hand out with the red folder in his hand, that's Matt Staver. Anyways, he says, quote, "The old saying is once that camel gets the nose in the tent, you can't stop them from coming the rest of the way in," unquote, Staver said in an interview with conservative Christian news outlet One News Now. Quote, "This is a way to slip it under a so-called anti-lynching bill and to sort of circle the wagon and then go after the jugular at some time in the future." Now, I read it exactly as it's printed. These editors of many of the articles that you and I cover here on YouTube, we know how it is. They claim that they have high IQs, and these people make a lot of money at these news outlets, but they can't even edit the material correctly. And so here we go, reporting our stories, reading it the way that they print it, and half the time it doesn't even make sense. But nonetheless, basically he's saying this is a way to slip it in under a so-called anti-lynching bill and then sort of circle the wagon and then go after the jugular at some time in the future. Basically he's saying that he has grave concerns about what they have coming next, in other words. Staver told One News Now that his organization, which has been labeled an anti-LGBTQ, quote, hate group by the Southern Poverty Law Center, is lobbying lawmakers in the House to have them remove the bill's, quote, sexual orientation and, quote, gender identity language before taking a vote. So in other words, in this bill right now, they are including sexual orientation and gender identity language in this bill, in this anti-lynching bill. And like I said, as a reminder, historically, it's just been African Americans, black people, who have been lynched in this country. But yet, gay people, the LGBTQ community, constantly rides the coattails of black people, black Americans in this country. They have tried to benefit off of every single thing that black people have fought, died, and been lynched for. They want to be included in on what we are owed and due. But I digress. Similarly, the group encouraged Congress in November to remove language about sexual orientation and gender identity discrimination from a trade agreement with Mexico and Canada. So, you see, the LGBTQ community has been trying to insert their rights in everything across the board. And they're doing it again on the coattails of black Americans. Liberty Counsel did not immediately respond to NBC News' request for comment. The Anti-Lynching Bill, introduced in June by the Senate's 3 black members, Senator Cory Booker, the Democrat from New Jersey, Senator Kamala Harris, the Democrat from California, and Senator Tim Scott, a Republican out of South Carolina, applies to lynchings motivated by a victim's, quote, actual or perceived religion, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, or disability, unquote. Did you hear that, family? They put all of that in the anti-lynching bill. Again, when historically lynching has only been dealing with black people. Black people are the only ones who have really been lynched in this country, but they have just included all of that. An actual or perceived religion, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, or disability. Did you hear race at all in that? No, you didn't. But this is what they have in the anti-lynching bill. So in a statement released shortly after the bill's unanimous Senate passage on December 19th, Booker called it, quote, an emotional and historic day, unquote. Well, I'm pissed. This should not have been about them. This really, truly involves black Americans. That's what this is about. For white America to stop lynching black people. And by the way, you stop lynching black people and then turning around calling it a suicide. But I digress. It says, quote, for over a century, members of Congress have attempted to pass some version of a bill that would recognize lynching for what it is, a bias-motivated act of terror. No, it's not. It's a racist-motivated act of terror. They use the word bias to water it down. It's a racist-motivated act of terror. That's what it's always been. Cory Booker, Kamala Harris, and Tim Scott, I'm really disappointed in these 3 black Senate members who even stood by, helped word this bill, and then thought it was a great thing for black people. I'm disgusted, offended. This is a travesty. And for this Matt Staver to bring this out to the forefront, I'm happy that he did this. I'm happy that I came across this because it educated me on just what their plans were regarding this anti-lynching bill. Again, it doesn't say anything about black people in particular. Oh, I'm sorry. This very last very last sentence, it finally says something about black people. It says, for over a century, members of Congress have attempted to pass some version of the bill that would recognize lynching for what it is. I'm sorry, a bias-motivated act of terror. And like I said, it's a racist-motivated act of terror. And then it says, and for more than a century and more than 200 attempts, this body has failed, Booker stated. Quote, we have righted that wrong and taken corrective action that recognizes this stain on our country's history, unquote. No, Booker, you got that wrong again. It doesn't say anything in particular about racist whites doing this to black people. But nonetheless, it ends off by saying the bill notes that at least 4,742 people, mainly African Americans, were reportedly lynched in the United States from 1882 to 1968. Now, family, I'm going to read that again because I want you to get this. The bill notes that at least 4,742 people, mainly African Americans, were reportedly lynched in the U.S. from 1882 to 1968. Never mind counting all the lynchings that happened before 1882, because we know there were hundreds, if not thousands. And we won't even talk about the ones that have happened after 1968 also, that still happens right up through 2018, with the most recent of Danye Jones. And I want to thank my sister, the radical sister, and Maurice Muhammad, who did an outstanding job interviewing and allowing Danye's mother to be on their platform to tell her story. And again, that is recent, yet they called that lynching a suicide. This was before they even did a full investigation. That's why I'm telling you that number, 4,742 people, mainly African Americans, that were reportedly lynched during the time between 1882 and 1968, is far, far lower than the actual number truly is. So this anti-lynching bill is really about white America, who has terrorized black Americans for hundreds of years, have lynched us and gotten away with it. And you now, in the 21st century, you're just now getting to an anti-lynching bill. But yet, we're told that you guys are highly intelligent, that you're smart and good people. And it took you this long to come up with an anti-lynching bill. And then when you do come up with it, you include the LGBTQ community, who has absolutely nothing to do with lynching. Nothing at all. And so, to my LGBTQ brothers and sisters, don't get mad at this recording. Don't get mad at all because of the truth. It is what it is. With that, I'm going to end this video. If you're African American and you just heard this story here, your blood should be boiling too, to find out that an anti-lynching bill is including people that has nothing to do with being lynched historically in this country. Lastly, quite offensive when you word it that it has to do with lynchings motivated by a victim's actual or perceived religion, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, or disability. That's highly offensive. Black people are the ones who have been lynched in this country. Tell the truth. This is Guru at Black Talk Radio, KSOL, the new black media. Thanks for watching. Peace out.